Recognize the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Again, I want to thank you for being here. I want to start with the number one question that Republicans claim has not been answered in 8 previous investigations. Yesterday, the chairman wrote an op-ed, and he said this is his top unanswered question about Benghazi, and it is, and I quote, "Why our people in Libya and Benghazi made so many requests for additional security personnel and equipment, and why those requests were denied." I'm going to give you a chance to answer that in a minute. Secretary Clinton, as you know, this exact question has been asked many times and answered many times. Let's start with the Accountability Review Board. Now, you a moment ago, you talked about Admiral Mullen, but you also appointed another very distinguished gentleman, Ambassador Pickering. And, of course, Admiral Mullen served under Republican administrations, and Ambassador Pickering, who I have a phenomenal amount of respect for, served 40 years, as you know, as a part of our diplomatic corps. He served under George H.W. Bush, and he also served as UN ambassador he also served under Reagan. Now, I'm just wondering, let me go back to that question. Why our people in Libya and Benghazi made so many requests? And then I want you to comment, it seems to be an implication that the ARB, Accountability Review Board, was not independent. And I think the chairman said they were handpicked by you. Of course, that's done by law. But I'm just, would you comment on those two things, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to. You know, as I said in my opening statement, I take responsibility for what happened in Benghazi. I felt a responsibility for all 70,000 people working at the State Department and USAID. I take that very seriously. As I said with respect to security requests in Benghazi back when I testified in January of 2013, those requests and issues related to security were rightly handled by the security professionals in the department. I did not see them. I did not approve them. I did not deny them. Ambassador Pickering and Admiral Mullen make this case very clearly in their testimony before your committee and in their public comments. These issues would not ordinarily come before the Secretary of State, and they did not in this case. As Secretary, I was committed to taking aggressive measures to ensure our personnel's and facilities were as safe as possible. And certainly when the nonpartisan, critical report from the Accountability Review Board came forward, I took it very seriously, and that's why I embraced all of their recommendations and created a new position within the Diplomatic Security Bureau specifically to evaluate high-risk posts. I think it's important also to mention, Congressman, that the diplomatic security professionals who are reviewing these requests, along with those who are serving in war zones and hotspots around the world, have great expertise and experience in keeping people safe. If you go on CODELs, they are the ones who plan your trip to keep you safe. They certainly did that for me. But most importantly, that's what they do every day for everybody who serves our country as a diplomat or development professional. And I was not going to second guess them. I was not going to substitute my judgment, which is not based on experience that they have in keeping people safe for theirs. And the changes that were recommended by the Accountability Review Board are ones that we thought made sense and began quickly to implement.
Now, the ARB, after conducting, Madam Secretary, more than 100 interviews, identified specific employee at the State Department who denied these requests. It was Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Bureau of Diplomatic Security, Charlene Lamb, and again, she did come before the Oversight Committee. The ARB report was very critical of her. It was also critical of her two supervisors, Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary and the Assistant Secretary for Diplomatic Security. The Oversight Committee found the same answer as the ARB. It found that this official denied these requests, and it found no evidence that you approved or denied them. The problem is that Republicans just keep asking the same question over and over again and pretend they don't know the answer. In 2013, the Republican chairman of 5 House committees issued a report falsely accusing you personally of denying these requests in a cable over your signature. The next day, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, Darrell Issa, went on national television and accused you of the same thing. Can we play that clip, please?
Secretary of State was just wrong. She said she did not participate in this, and yet only a few months before the attack, she outright denied security in her signature in a cable, April 2012.
Do you remember that allegation, Madam Secretary?
I do.
Well, when the Washington Post fact checker examined this claim, they gave it 4 Pinocchios. They called it a whopper. It turns out that the Republicans had a copy of that cable, but they didn't tell the American people that your so-called signature was just a stamp that appeared on millions of cables from the State Department every single year. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, Madam Secretary, my goal has always been to gather facts and to defend the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Last year, I asked our staff to compile an asked and answered database, and this specific issue was answered thoroughly. On Monday, we put out another report, and this issue was addressed yet again. But the Republicans want to keep this attack going, so they are now trying to argue that we have new emails that raise new questions. The truth is that we have reviewed these emails, and they don't contradict the previous conclusions. They confirm them. They corroborate them. We've reviewed emails from Ambassador Stevens, and they show that he asked Charlene Lamb for more security. Nothing we have obtained, not the new interviews or the new emails, changes the basic facts we have known for 3 years. Secretary Clinton, let me ask one final question, and please take as much time as you want to answer this. There's no evidence to support the Republican claims that you personally rejected security requests. So some have argued that since you knew the danger was increasing in Libya, you should have been in there making detailed decisions about whether there should be 5, 7, or even 9 security officers at any given post. Madam Secretary, I know you have answered over again. You might want to just elaborate and just I have a minute and 7 seconds.
Well, thank you, Congressman. I think there has been some confusion, and I welcome the opportunity to try to clarify it to the best of my ability. With respect, as you rightly point out, the claims that were made about the cables, I think you have explained the fact, which is that it's the long-standing tradition of the State Department for cables from around the world to be sent to and sent from the State Department under the signature, over the signature of the Secretary of State. It's a stamp. It's just part of the tradition. There are millions of them, as you point out. They are sorted through and directed to the appropriate personnel. Very few of them ever come to my attention. None of them with respect to security regarding Benghazi did. Then the other point, which I thank you for raising so that perhaps I can speak to this one as well. There is, of course, information that we were obtaining about the increasingly dangerous environment in Libya, across the country, but in particular in eastern Libya. And we were aware of that, and we were certainly taking that into account. There was no actionable intelligence on September 11th, or even before that date, about any kind of planned attack on our compound in Benghazi. And there were a lot of debates, apparently, that went on within the security professionals about what to provide, because they did have to prioritize. The Accountability Review Board pointed that out. The State Department has historically, and certainly before this terrible incident, not had the amount of money that we thought would be necessary to do what was required to protect everyone. So, of course, there had to be priorities. And that was something that the security professionals dealt with. I think that both Admiral Mullen and Ambassador Pickering made it very clear that they thought that the high threat post should move to a higher level of scrutiny, and we had immediately moved to do that.